Evening. Welcome to the 24th episode of our MBA Prep Talk series. A lot of people have different kind of definitions with respect to product management. Some say it's very similar to a CEO job. You know, a CEO is basically a product manager or equivalent to that. Some say product management is all about marketing. Some say it's about managing the product. So different definitions are there, but what people fail to realize that it also depends on which kind of industry you are and what is the size of the company that you're working for. How do you define a job, the job role of a product manager?
So I think you covered the first half, which I would have described and given a disclaimer around.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a pretty broad term, and it has really catched. It has caught on in the last few years a lot. So yeah, if I were to just limit it to technology companies and not e-commerce specifically, so over there, the way I would define the role is exactly it's being like a mini CEO of a product. Now, the reason why I say that is, on the one hand, you're expected to understand the strategy, define the strategy, and the long-term plan on what your product or your tool or your feature is going to solve for. And at the same time, you are expected to to be thickly involved in the day-to-day execution, into day-to-day problem solving and firefighting about that product. So having this mix of a long-term vision and at the same time being involved in the day-to-day execution is something which describes this really well. The product manager comes and gives you the direction on what to build and more importantly why to build. So that probably like if I were to generalize and say that okay, engineers are good at building or problem solving, that kind of stuff, then a non-engineer would be over indexed on something like customer empathy, understanding the problem from a customer sense and not looking at it in a very mathematical or a data oriented way only. That the way the MBA courses are structured, and more so the way we go about picking electives in an MBA course, eventually makes it a very generic course which tells you to a certain depth about everything over there. As you said, all the verticals. I would understand a lot about finance and accounting. I would understand about marketing. I would understand the basics of operations, HR, tech, system software, etc. Now, what that does is that is exactly preparing you for a generic managerial role. I don't I don't think that in the most of the scenarios the objective is to make an expert in any of those areas. It is to give you those building blocks, those fundamentals on which you have to go and build in any job. So I think that is very integral in a job like product management, because you are expected to know a little bit about all of them. Like in my previous answer, I was mentioning you're probably interacting with almost all the departments a company would have. And if you don't have those basics, you will struggle a lot more. So I'm not saying that your MBA is all that you will take to excel in a job. What you will definitely require is on-the-job training, rigorous learning, etc.